Did you ever want a science fiction novel that's just fun? No technobabble saving the day with words they invented 5 minutes ago, solving problems in a method that makes no actual logical sense. A science fiction book that's straightforward. Here's a world, here's a mystery, here's some action bits to break up any possible boredom. If that sounds like fun to you, you've landed on the right review. Today we are talking about Lori Janeski's Phoenix, Book 1 of the Carter Files. This book is just plain fun, okay? It goes through several genres within a well-developed science fiction setting. We start with a buddy cop genre as mismatched as Lethal Weapon, an initial terrorist mystery that looks like 24, until it turns into a battle royale and a running shootout during a motorcycle chase. Division 7 cop David Carter has strayed too close to the line once too often, so he saddled with a rookie agent, Veronique de Tournay, to observe him and see just how over the line he is. What starts as stopping a single terrorist incident spirals into a rabbit hole that bounces around 5 different planets, fighting off multiple threats, stalked every step of the way by a Bond villain masterminding everything behind the scenes, as well as his pet psychopath. It's fun. The book is written very much as a police or espionage procedural with 2 primary points of view, both from our leads. There are occasional asides to the primary henchman, who is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. There's no other way to put it. Janeski's characters tend to think through and observe everything. And while Janeski never reaches the level of depth that Tolkien does, it's clearly what she's shooting for. There are elements of the first half of the story that feels like if Robert Ludlum or Mickey Spillane wrote sci-fi cops instead of spies and private investigators. Go to Planet A, get shot at, stop terrorists, get information, go to Planet B, repeat. Then we get halfway through the novel and it turns into an 80s action movie. We even get a motorcycle chase. Frankly, my only complaint with the book is that the third act drags a little, but it's also the end of a 200,000 word book, so I may have been the one dragging. Whatever you do, if you have a paperback version, do not drop it on your foot. Author Lori Janeski worked on this one for a while, which is why it's as long as it is. On the surface, Phoenix is just some police procedural in space. It almost looks like a buddy cop plot, only it turns into a romance 3/4 of the way through once our heroes think everyone is done shooting at them. But don't worry, the Bond villain has plans, and we're off to the races in the last 50-some-odd pages. That continues the trend of being an 80s action movie. And yes, I mean 80s action movie in the best possible way. I grew up with Commando, I still enjoy it, come at me. Once again, you take the buddy cop genre, but in space. Character 1, David Carter, at first glance looks like your standard burnout with a tragic past. Either that or he's Dirty Harry Callahan, depending on your point of view. But he doesn't even have a standard tragic past. He has a fondness for classics and old technology. He prefers books to e-readers. He prefers his 1911 to plasma guns. And his background is very basic blue collar. In my head, he's Adam Baldwin. No, he is not related to any of the Baldwin brothers. You can look him up. Veronique de Tournay, our second character, is a rookie who reads people's faces like other folks read a billboard. She comes from a wealthy French family on her mother's side. Her father used to be a spy master of this universe, and in this book, she acts as the scalpel to Carter's lead pipe. The fun part of this book is that each ends up learning something from the other. And it's a lot more than Riggs and Murtaugh ever learned from each other in the Lethal Weapon movies. The secondary characters are all vivid, down to the Bond henchman, who is in a battle of doing the dozens with Carter, only they do it in trading insults from Richard III. Yes, I believe Shakespeare invented your mama jokes. Even our Bond villain is entertaining in a deranged psychopath kind of way. If you want to look at the cultural assumptions of any world and any setting, look at the mysteries. Sherlock Holmes deducing that a man is a bachelor because a wife wouldn't let her husband out of the house with a loose thread on his cuffs isn't necessarily a deduction you could make today, and the same thing goes for detective fiction in a science fiction setting. The world here is built as the story goes along, but this story goes for 200,000 words, and thus there is a lot of world building to go with it. From Manichaean terrorists who speak Aramaic, to other control satellites, to new technologies that could level entire cities if things go wrong. The culture built in this book is also very interesting, including a world government painted as being heavily libertarian, as well as very Dominican. By Dominican, I mean the Catholic Order of Preachers, not the Dominican Republic, just to be clear. Phoenix was almost Tolkien deep, but avoiding all of the pitfalls of diving too deep. There's a whole collection of little details along the way, like the IRA, the Independent Republic Armada, or the Martian pub J. Carter Irish Pub, with a lunch special called The Warlord of Mars. She was having fun. They also describe Phoenix also describes a future of New Orleans that is darkly entertaining, but that's because I am a sick man. There is some in-world politics that is almost analogous to modern politics, but there are maybe 5 pages of it scattered throughout the novel. Then things blow up again and we can all get on with our lives. There is no content warning here. There might be some cussing, nothing stood out. There is limited bloodshed. There is literally a bad guy who gets taken out with a headshot by a Colt 1911, and there isn't even a description of a gory mess afterward, so it's pretty tame. Do you like smart science fiction stories that think their way through problems like Timothy Zahn? Do you like John Ringo levels of action? Do you like solid world building like David Weber? And if you answered yes to any of the above, you should have bought this book already. If Robert Ludlum wrote a science fiction noir mystery that turned into an 80s action film with a depth of writing on par with Tolkien and a romance subplot that looks like Castle, it would be Phoenix. Add a touch of the film Magnum Force, and we're off to the races. Tell me that doesn't sound like fun. If you want to buy Phoenix from any available vendor, the link for this book is in the description below. Be sure to swing by our Substack for more in the way of text reviews. This is Declan Finn for Upstream Reviews, where we know that politics is downstream from culture.